Hello again. The next video we're going to go through are related to formulas. Now we can see down here I've got the addition tab, subtraction, multiplication and the division. Now these are formulas and we're going to talk about later about functions. We can see the functions here. Now basically, just to touch on it slightly, the difference between a formula and a function is a built-in calculation. While a formula is a user-defined calculation. If I put that into layman's terms, it's, say you're using a scientific calculator and you want to find the area of a circle. You can use certain function keys on the calculator, pi r squared, so you can click on these certain functions and the calculator will do all the work for you. Or you could be user-defined and you could punch in the digits. So you could punch in 3.14 multiplied by whatever the radius is squared. You could do that yourself. So that's the difference between a function and a formula. Also, they sometimes mix these words up in the exams and they say create a formula to calculate blah, blah, blah. But it may be a function you have to use. So it's similar to averages. We know that if it says what is the average of a certain set of data, we know it's talking about mean, but then we also know that averages include mean, mode, medium, and range. So it's one of them ambiguous phrases, but we just have to get used to. So let me just show you an example of a formula and an example of a function and just show you why we need to know which ones to use. Now, before we start, all formulas and functions start with an equal sign. If you don't put an equal sign at the beginning of the formula, then whatever you're typing, that will just go in the cell and it won't do any calculations. As soon as you put an equal sign in at the beginning, the computer knows that we're doing some maths and gets very excited. So we can see over here, if I just all of these tabs down the bottom all of these tabs will have an explanation on the page. The formulas will all have them on the top left hand side. So if I click into number 7, I can see what we're doing here is we are adding cell B2, this one, to cell B3 and it equals 7. So this is a formula, equals B2 plus B3 equals 7. So if I come over here and I'll just show you the difference between a formula and a function when it's incorrectly used. If I just click into this, double click into this cell, I can see that I've just added all these this data up and it comes to 22. Because I'm adding more than 2 cells up, and basically that's what, if we think like this, then it will help. A formula is just something that does something with one cell and another cell, either adds it, takes away, multiplies, but it's one cell do something with another. A function is more than 2 cells and it's preset by a word or a key that tells the computer what to do. So in this case it's sum, so it's telling the computer to add up everything between B9 and B13. So we know the answer is 22. However, if I click on the formula, you can add them up like this. So it's not preset with a word, so it's just equals B9 plus B10, blah, 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 all the way down to B13. And we know that comes up to 22. So the answer is the same. So what's the issue? The issue is this is unprofessional and you will be penalized for it. So if you're doing something with more than 2 cells, it will be a function, and we'll talk about that later. So let's get back to this. Let's try it out. So I'm going to click in here and I want to total up these 2 cells. Now we know we can see they add up to 33. So the first thing we've got to do for all formulas and functions is put in an equal sign. I'm going to click into the cells that I want to add up. So I want to add up B9. I'm going to put my mathematical symbol in and I want to add it to C9. I can check in the taskbar to make sure it's correct. Everything's hunky-dory. Enter and I get 33. Now, careful, because basically what we're doing here, we're putting formulas in, and normally this is done at the beginning of a spreadsheet, so a client's come to you and ask you to create something for them, and we won't have this data on here. normally. Whereas in the exam, we've got the data and we're kind of putting the formulas in and afterwards. So try not to look at these numbers too much and try and think of them as cells. So I'm not adding 12 plus 21 equals 33. What I am actually doing, I am adding B9, whatever's in B9, I am adding it to C9, and then that will give me the answer. Because if we change 12 to, I don't know, say 18, and I press enter, it will automatically calculate the new total, because it's not looking at the numbers, it's looking whatever's in the cell. I just undo that. So please think of the cells, the cell references, not as numbers, as what's in them. Please think of them as cell references. Let me just show you what I mean again to re-emphasize that. If I add up B10, I'm going to add it to the next one, but I've accidentally looked at it and saw that it was 3. So I'm going to put A3, add 3, it comes to 6. I know this is correct. 3 plus 3 is 6. Everything hunky-dory, isn't it? But I've actually up here added the 3 rather than what's in the cell. Now the issue with this is if I click in this one here and I change that to say 10, it will still say 6. And the reason being, I've asked it to add whatever's in this cell and add 3 to it. I've ignored that cell. So see what I mean? Make sure we look at it as cell references. Try not to look at it as data. Okay, I'm just going to take that one off because I don't want that one to confuse. Once we've calculated this one, we don't have to go and do it again and again and again. What we can do is drag the formula down, or if we were totaling up here, we could drag the formula across. So to drag formulas down, it's called a relative cell reference, which means that this formula, when I drag it down to here, will do the same as what the one above has done, so it will add up there. When I drag this one down, it will do the same as the one above, and it will start adding up the data across. So to drag a formula down, click into the cell, hover in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the cursor changes to a bold cross. I'm going to click and hold, left click and hold, and just drag the formula down. And I've now copied the formula down. So remember, click off the shaded bit. You don't want to delete anything. But if I click in any of these, we can see that it's dragged the formula down. So it's now saying B11 plus C11. It's now saying B12 plus C12. It's very fast. It's a nice fast way of doing it. So very good. I'm going to let you carry on with the rest. This is a relative cell reference. It's just a piece of information. You're not going to get asked about these in the exam, not at level 2 anyway. But the difference between a relative, we have different cell references. We have relative cell references, we have absolute, and there's a mixed. Now the relative is the one I just showed you. The absolute cell reference would fix a cell reference. And when I drag these down, they will always look at that. Now we're going to cover it later here in absolute, and it's for level 2s. Level 1s don't need to know this, but it's a stretch and challenge. Good interest for you, so please look at that video later on. The mixed reference, it won't be in a level 2 exam, but basically just for stretch and challenge, it's a combination of the both. So the mixed reference will be part relative, part absolute, which means that if I absoluted, say, this data here, if I absolute the data, I will start to freeze the column, start to freeze the row, and where they meet, I will freeze that cell. Now, a mixed reference, maybe I just freeze the column, so I'm just freezing this data from the column, but not the rows. If you want to know more on that, certainly give me an email and we can go into that, but it won't be in your exam. So, I'd like you to carry on with all these. And then when you come onto the next tab, subtraction, you're going to do the same process, but you're just changing the mathematical symbol to whatever the tab is saying. So subtraction here, multiplication here. Just be aware the multiplication sign is the asterisk, which is above your number 8 key on your keypad. Okay, I think that's everything for this. My next video will be about percentages because there's some BOD mass and BID mass in there, but enjoy. See you soon.